LA has one of the largest foster care communities in the country, if not the largest. Every year, 1,500 youth age out of LA County's foster care system.
Every night, thousands of kids go to bed without their most basic rights. A safe, stable home, health care, education. These are things that we take for granted, and yet there are thousands every single night that don't have that.
The nation's foster child population began to rise in the early 1980s, partly due to the explosion of crack cocaine that left thousands of children born to addicts in institutionalized care. Throughout the 1990s, the numbers continued to increase as a result of the economic recession, as more and more families struggle with poverty, one factor that is often tied to child abuse. In Los Angeles, high-profile abuse and killings led many to believe that the safest option was to separate children from their families. Growing research, however, pointed out that such a mindset had disastrous results. In fact, children in foster care were more likely to drop out of school, commit crime, and experience mental illness, drug addiction, and homelessness. In the 1990s, national and state legislators passed laws to make it easier for families to adopt, thus decreasing the number of children in foster care. The drop in numbers was especially dramatic in Los Angeles. 3 factors drove the change. More children were getting adopted, fewer children were separated from their families, and more children were reunited with their families. The number of annual adoptions tripled to 3,069 by 2001 and fell back to about 2,000, nearly double the number a decade ago.
I had been in foster care since I was, let's say, 8. So I'm like 23. 1994 is like more than 10 years, I think. I was in foster care. There was a lot of moving placements, houses between. Before I came to staying in one particular home, but even then, like I think being in the foster care system had been really a weird experience, because it's like, how do you explain to your friends at school what that means, and they don't know really much about what does it mean when you're taken away from your parents and then placed with these other people that are not necessarily your parents, but they're kind of your guardians. So like I said, it's kind of like in this awkward situation where I really didn't know how to explain to people, because I was a little embarrassed or sometimes ashamed to tell people that I was in foster care. But most of the time people are understanding, the people that I get close to and talk about that. But others, I just feel I kind of just shut down and not really try to talk about those things. Yeah.
I was in the foster care system for 5 years. From the time I was 15 to like 19. Well, I didn't get to go to so many different places, which that was good. I was in one home, and then it didn't work out, so I moved to a different home, and it worked out better. I stayed there like the 3 years, the rest of the 5. So I got a chance to focus on me, since I was coming from a home that basically I was responsible for my siblings, which are 4 younger ones, and so it gave me my space, my time, which it was really hard to not see my family. But on the other side, it was very positive to think more about what I want to do and focus more in school, since school was never a priority in my house.
There are thousands of children out there who need help and guidance. Luckily, there are organizations out there whose sole mission is to help make sure these children get what they need and deserve.
The Alliance provides free legal services for kids who've been abused and impoverished, that are living in foster care, living informally with relatives, grandparents, and whatnot. And we provide advocacy for kids. We help them maintain permanency, so be adopted or be in a safe and permanent home.
We work on improving their education, their health, their safety. We help them get permanency, meaning specifically adopted or to find a legal guardian that can take care of them. And we do all of this to help them be able to have the chance, despite living in a adverse situation, to have the chance to fulfill their own God-given potential.
We're helping with secure adoptions, gaining legal guardianship, where if they're in a precarious, in an unsafe environment, they'll need a guardian that can help make decisions for them and protect their rights.
Some kids, unfortunately, kind of remain in foster care for 3, 4, 5 years sometimes before they're adopted. And there are some kids, unfortunately, who are not able to find an adoptive home, and they stay in foster care all the way till they're a teenager, and maybe they even emancipate from foster care without a family, which is something that we try to avoid and do everything we can to prevent from happening.
I run a program called the Serpentine Project. We work with former foster care youth. So that's youth who have aged out of the foster care system around 18 or 19 and are adults attempting to go to school, whether it's college, community college, or trade schools. We provide an incredible holistic approach to our work in that we provide financial support, emotional support. We do a lot of life coaching and a lot of following up and making sure that not only the dollars and time that we invest in the youth become useful, but also that they're getting what they need in other areas of their life.
I love children. I don't have any of my own yet, but I have a nephew who I love very much. And just knowing that because children, they don't have the right to vote under the age of 18, they don't have a lot of control over what happens to them in their lives. And so being able to give them a voice was very important to me. Just because, there's other nonprofits, they work with senior citizens or, certain disabled people, all of whom, they have a little bit more say-so over what happens to them generally, and children just don't have that. And they're a really vulnerable population, so children's rights is something that I've always been interested in, and doing the pro bono work when I was at the firm is what really hooked me.
Well, the best thing about this job is looking in the faces of the children, and for me personally at the adoption hearing with the adoptive parents, and just seeing the joy and the relief and the excitement in their faces when you're able to give them their dream of being a permanent family. So that's the best part of my job.
Knowing that we're changing people's lives, that we're helping fill a gap, help make a difference. Be that phone call, be the voice on the other line that tells them, don't worry, it'll be all right, we'll take care of it. Right before I came here, I got an email from someone saying that she's working on behalf of these 3 children who were just moved out of one foster home. It wasn't a good situation, and they just moved to another one, and there's no benefits that family is getting. There's nothing. They're just trying to take in these 3 kids. It's a relative, and kids don't even have clothes. The clothes that the other foster home sent over are all too small, and so it's just really helping make sure that the foster care system, the county, gets those right benefits and services in place immediately, and not let it fall into a bureaucratic maze.
I realized that even after foster youth are given a lot of services, or the lack of services, that there are a lot of advocates out there, like the the Alliance for Children's Rights, that have to take on these cases, and sometimes it's fixing the mistakes that certain people make in that system. And so the Alliance has kind of facilitated the youth who are going through a lot. But for me, in terms of what it's done for me, I think I just is like an eye opener of. I was fortunate to have a stable, emancipated years, but for others it's not the same, and it's really difficult. So I guess the Alliance is giving me an opportunity to see what they actually do.
Serpentine helped me, it's just they have become like the support I needed, and the confidence that I needed to go part-time here at the Alliance. That's what the Serpentine has done for me. Just make sure that I feel, that everything is okay.
Well, you can start by going to our website, which is www.kids-alliance.org. You can also call us at 213-368-6010, and we can tell you more about our programs.
People can help by helping us keep our doors open. Sometimes we are the only call that gets answered when a child or a family is really looking for help. In these days, there's so many financial hardships out there, and people are losing their jobs, and so the need is greater and greater. But the funders are cutting back, and so it's just a stretch. Our staff are working so hard, and so just being able to we raise everything that it takes to run this operation and pay the staff and have the ability to be there for over 6,000 children every year. Then it takes a lot of time and money to run it. And so the donations, the support, coming to our fundraising events, all of those things are really important.
We always need volunteers, especially during the school year. During the summer, we have our summer interns from law schools who are here full-time. But during the school year, it's not as steady as that. So we always need volunteers. We need law students. We need undergrads, high school students, anybody who's willing to help, even just older members of the community, because you can do things from as simple as filing paperwork all the way to doing the intake process where you interview the clients. You're the first person who has contact, and really just to find out what the legal issue is that they're having. And then it runs all the way from if you can spend more time here, you can actually have your own caseload, depending on if you're here almost full time.
One of the best ways to help out is, number one, always staying on top of what's happening out there in the community. Right now there's a lot of stories of funding for schools, whether or not programs are going to be cut. Always being aware of those stories that are out there and being politically conscious as to what you think might need to be done about those issues, and also volunteering on the issues that you feel passionate about.
Spreading the word that this organization is out there. A lot of caregivers don't know what resources are available to them. There's at the Alliance we provide a tremendous amount of services, and just getting the word out sometimes is very, very helpful.
What the youth need is different kind of support. Sometimes it could be financial, sometimes it's just a friend. So if they just get more involved, and if they have any kind of expertise in some kind of, art, or they're really good, they're attorneys or they're doctors, if they just can give a little bit of their knowledge to to some of the youth, they are interested in those type of things, it will be like very, very great.
And I always recommend that people find an organization local to them. So if people are calling because they hear about us through Survivor, but they live in Texas, clearly, unless they want to make a donation, which is fabulous, there's not that much they can do to help us. So I always recommend that people start to really understand the foster care population within their own community.